If you're looking to squash enemies while dungeon crawling, then you don't want to miss this upcoming roguelike on Kickstarter. Now that's gaming. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are new here, this episode. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, this channel is all about discovering something new and sharing some of the very best indie games. If any of that interests you, well, then consider joining the awesome community by subscribing. Today we are going to be looking at Glyphs of Eldamir. This is a game that I found on Twitter, and recently it went on a Kickstarter, and I played the demo on itch.io and wanted to give my overall thoughts, some feedback to the developer, and also to show you all. So what I really liked about this game is the ability to select different weapons at the beginning. So you have weapons like a staff, a sword, a bow, you know, some of the standard stuff you would see in a lot of fantasy games, but as you play you find different types of weapons, like upgraded versions of these, and they act differently. So they add some other elements such as being able to freeze. You have a lightning coming out of the staff, which is very cool, and I'll get back to that in a bit. And then you also have a sword which you can use to ignite enemies, so there's a lot of cool potential with this. And I also like that you could kill the NPCs that you talk to. I found that very funny, and I was really surprised when that happened. As I mentioned earlier, the lightning staff is my favorite weapon, as the ability to have electricity to different enemies as it arcs was the most fun thing. I didn't really find too many of the other weapons fun besides the bow, which did poison, and it seems like the upgraded versions were a lot more interesting than the basic versions. You have different types of enemies, bats, slimes, and skeletons for this demo. There's also a little bit of a teaser at the end of a boss before it ends, which makes you really want to play more. I like the idea of going to different types of floors, traveling through this dungeon as you're trying to survive, and it kind of gets challenging. I mean, you have different things that you can find, such as landmines, and you can also have armor that you pick up, and you meet these different NPCs that give you these things, and I find that pretty cool. It gives some interaction with the other, enemies or other people you actually find in the dungeon, so it makes it feel like you're not entirely alone. I wonder in the future if you kill any of these NPCs, will they attack you or come back as an enemy? I bet a lot of fun stuff will happen since this is a roguelike game. So many crazy things can happen, and I can imagine like a lot more weapons being added would be so much fun. A lot more armor, different types of sub weapons and magic and spells that you can use. It was pretty cool just messing around with a lot of the stuff, as there's like a lot of enemies on the screen, and I feel like that is what kind of separates it a little bit from the current roguelikes that you see. There seems to be a lot of enemies, and I would love to see a lot more, as you have a lot of cover to work with. You have different things like crates and pots that you can kind of hide behind, so enemies that have the ranged weapons like bows from the skeletons, it'll be a lot harder to hit you. So I like that the developer is putting in some ways to have a strategy. It's not just a whole giant room where you're just mindlessly killing enemies. There is some kind of thought that it looks like to be put into it, and I would definitely like to see that develop further with different things, maybe different traps you can activate. I think that would be a ton of fun. Another thing that I thought would be pretty cool, as you're going through these gates, going to different floors, it'd be really interesting to see the floors change. Maybe the areas that you're walking in, it gets to mossy, or maybe it gets to a lava type theme, or maybe it adds elements so everything is slippery in one room or something like that. I guess that might be a little too much, since ice physics are really weird in a lot of games, but there's like so many fun things I really think you can add. Unfortunately, there is isn't any sounds or music in the game. This is, just a concept for the developer on the Kickstarter, but I can see some nice fantasy type of music or even epic type of music making it into the game. For things that can be improved, other than what I mentioned, I would, of course, like to see the weapons a little bit, more fleshed out as the game progresses. And also, this is kind of an opinion, but damage numbers will be a cool addition. At least being able to turn them on and off so you can give the option. I think when attacking the dummies, it would be cool to see how much damage you do. You can inspect weapons, of course, and see the damage from there, but seeing it physically, sometimes that can be really rewarding, but I can imagine that being pretty crazy with the number of enemies on the screen. For the 30 minutes or so of this short demo, I had a lot of fun and I really can't wait to see more of it. Here is a question of the day for you, everyone. What roguelike game was the last that you played? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to discover something new, then feel free to check out some of the other demo reviews I've been covering on this channel. Thank you so much for watching this video, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.